Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for coming on Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs. I am so excited to bring you on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited just to talk about AI for a little bit.
Oh, yes, we are going to nerd out. Before we dive into all the AI stuff, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Niki Dunigan. I run the Creative CoPilot and teach how to use ChatGPT for creative entrepreneurs, how to leverage it and save your creative energy by using AI in your businesses.
Oh man, I can't wait to talk about course stuff with AI
Yeah.
because I've been really diving deep into putting out a lot of courses. And, we were talking before we hit record, like, there's always more we can do to
Wow.
integrate more AI tools into our life. But before we dive into all the tips and everything, I kind of like to kick off these conversations by asking, how did you start dipping your toes into the world of AI? What did that look like for you?
Sure. So I used to work for a real estate team. I started as a marketing person and then had to quickly develop into a director of operations. And so real estate is very fun in the moment, and sometimes it's not super fun. I wanted to create my own thing on the side. I didn't know what it would look like, but I knew I wanted to do it. I was like, okay, how can I do a 9 to 5 and also launch a whole thing on the side? It just felt like super overwhelming. And someone posted about ChatGPT, and I was like, what is this? What's going on here? Jumped in, it was like, okay, let's make a social media post. And I was like, oh gosh, it's actually really good. Where can I go with this? From there, I realized from my own coaching and all that kind of stuff is that creative people don't love systems. They don't love operations things. They don't love building out things because they just want to create things and have fun and do cool things. And so I decided, okay, this AI thing is really like helping me kind of bridge so many skill gaps that I have. How can I teach this to other creatives to like help them have a stepping stone from like never running a business to like, let's get launched. Let's do this thing. Let's have a new business for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So fun. I know. Whenever I think about AI can help us bridge the gap between like, I use it every day. I'll go to it and be like, here's my crazy,
Yeah.
meandering brain dump idea here. Help me understand this, be my sounding board, organize this. I love using that for courses too. Whereas, okay, I have this idea of my course. This is like all the random things I want to teach and include, but like, what is the logical way to teach this or organize it? How can I make it as easy as possible? Is
Like,
that what you're helping people do?
yeah, like I just think on one hand, it can take over those skills that you don't have. I'm an awful copywriter. I can talk all day about what I want to talk about, but if I have to like put it into writing words, my brain like doesn't know English anymore. And so like there's those
Mhm.
kind of things where you can like, okay, please help me with this. Cause I can't like when you're starting a new business, you don't always have the money and resources to hire out. ChatGPT is so great for that. But also, like you said, it's such a good thought partner. What I love about it is that our creative brains don't always know how to say things the most articulate way in the moment. So I will just type out, I'm thinking this. What do you think? And ChatGPT will be like, here's what I think. Here's how this matches your brand and your audience and your voice, and all these things. I'm like, okay, perfect. Now I have a way to go from working from scratch to let's actually build this thing out. It's really cool.
What are some of those mistakes that you see a lot of your students or just people making when they first start using these tools?
I think it's such a learning curve. I forget all the time. AI is still so relatively new. I'm so ingrained in it now that I had to have my students remind me. I'll talk to them, oh, you can do this and do that. And they're like, I had no idea you could do that. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Let me like back up. And so I'm like, okay. So it's such a learning curve. I don't think there are mistakes to make. I think you have to play around with it and have failures, and it's gonna give you bad things sometimes. You kind of recognize that I really like to look at AI as a thing to play around with. So when it's like not functioning the way you don't really want it to, let's play around with it. See what we can do differently. See how we can kind of change things or talk differently and be honest with it. Another great thing about ChatGPT is that you can be very honest with it. You can be a little bratty and mean to it if you need to be, and you can't hurt its feelings, which is awesome. I think the main thing is people go into it thinking, okay, I need to have a perfect prompt. And if I have a perfect prompt, I can just use it over and over again and I'll get the results I want. I think people forget that I could give you a prompt. I give you 100 prompts and I'm like, this is what I got from it. And then you put it in, completely different answer. And then you're going to feel like you failed. I'm like, no, you didn't fail. The ChatGPT just wants to give you different options. I like to look at it instead of a perfect prompt. Let's chat with these chatbots. Let's just have a conversation. Ask it what you want, see what it does, and then learn how to give feedback to it. Because I think that's where you get that easier flow of conversation going, where you get the results you want.
Oh, I love that kind of like softer approach to starting to use these tools and learning how to use these tools. And exactly, I'm actually literally tomorrow opening the doors to my AI Reels Club, which
Yeah.
has prompts for Reels, hooks, and captions. I was literally just having a conversation before we hit record with someone who's been using one of my prompts, and she's like, "How did I do?" I was like, "This is great. And here's some tweaks and feedback." It's about allowing these tools to help you and
Mhm.
developing the skills, the quote unquote
Yeah.
relationship, I guess, with this that will allow you to work faster, right? This is what I keep telling people too. It's like you can't turn off your brain with these tools. In fact,
Really.
that's how you're going to get the most generic
Yeah,
responses, right?
for sure.
Instead, it's about really developing your skills of working with them, allowing you to do the work that you're gonna be doing anyway a little bit faster, but still making sure that you are running everything through the filter of your brand, through the filter of your strategy. And I think too that firstly, yeah, it's exactly like you said, developing prompting skills
Mhm.
instead of getting the right prompts is really helpful. And I keep sharing this too a lot on the podcast. It's developing your revising and editing skills, I think is super, super helpful for working with these tools. I don't think a lot of people realize that revising and editing is a skill, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure. It reminds me of when I was a director of operations. We were a very small team. I had to hire my own assistant. And I remember this first like week or so, I would ask her to do something, and then like I'd ask her to make a social media post for me, and then she'd make it, and I'm like, this doesn't match anything we do. I would be like, what is she doing? And then I realized I didn't tell her what to do. Like, hey, make social media post, and she made a great post for someone else. But I was like, I have to learn how to communicate clearly. I have to learn how to give clear
Mhm.
feedback. I have to learn how to explain to her what I actually need and not expect her to just read my mind. And it's the same with chatbots. I like to say they're not really like tools. People think about tools, they think if I use Canva, like a graphic, I can get this graphic. With ChatGPT, you have to work with it. It's your assistant. It wants to help you, but you have to help it help you. You have to train it. You have to give it feedback. You have to work with it a little bit. Once you do, that's where all the magic happens. When you put in the effort to train it, that's when you get those really great results people are seeing elsewhere. So that's really awesome.
I'm having kind of one of those ooh moments where you have
Yeah.
like a thought, right? Because I think a lot of people, there's a lot of rhetoric about AI taking our jobs and people being nervous to use AI. And then also, what is this going to do for our future generation and
Mhm.
our kids? But I do think firstly, there's something to be said about could you allow AI to hinder your creativity, your critical thinking skills? Sure. But there's also opportunity for us to grow while using these tools as CEOs of our business, as the
Okay.
bosses, as the managers. And I can almost see that being something that our kids might learn too
For
better
sure.
in school and all the different stuff is like learning in working with these tools, then they might develop these skills of being able to give instruction and leadership. Eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I barely miss the boat of kids who know how to do coding. I wish I knew how to code things. Kids only a few years under me know how to code websites. And I'm like, how do you know that? But they're taught these things. My
Mm.
dad growing up had no idea how to use a computer at all. He like never used computers. He was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't care. You do you, whatever. But it's like as we're evolving as a species or whatever it is, we all learn new skills and the younger generations are going to have access to these things. I think it's important to teach them how to do it ethically, but also to
Mhm.
be like very honest about it. I tell people all the time, AI is only as talented as the person using it. In the future, or even now, there are people using AI to make worse content. We have to step up and say, I use this to leverage my creativity. I use it to leverage my business. I want to make cooler things and more unique things. That's where AI can step in. I think it's going to be a cool shift when people who are creative and interesting and cool and fun and innovative and all those things start using AI. That's where things get like invigorated and exciting again, which I'm so happy about.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the specific ways you've been loving using AI tools. Tell us some of the ways you've been using it or sharing with your students.
So for me, custom GPTs are my bread and butter. I love them so much. I don't think I could function without them. And so in my course, I teach how to do a branding one and a copy one, because if you have a branding chatbot that's an expert in your brand, for me, I have so many goals for my brand. I have so many words I want to use and phrases I want to use and all these things. And then when I go to make copy, I forget what I'm talking about. I don't know my own phrases, my own pain points, whatever it is I want to put messaging in. It's my expert in my brand. It knows everything I need to know. From there, you could build out so many other things that could really be leveraging your brand. And then for the copy one, it knows my messaging, it knows my goals, it knows what I want to be promoting, and it does that for me. From that, I can make an email chatbot. I can make a social media chatbot. You can take these chatbots and make them as specific and niche down as you want to. And that's where all the fun part happens. I also think, going back to treating them as assistants, I think it's important. People go in thinking, okay, I'm going to put in this prompt and then I'm done for the day. You have to act as if you're walking into an office and your team of chatbots are there waiting for you to tell it what to do for the day. And you can actually have them talk to each other, give you thoughts, ideas, and then you can step in and say, hey, this is great, but let's do this instead. And so you have to put yourself in that CEO role where you've had this team of custom GPTs that are experts in their fields, experts in your brand. They're ready to go. And I think that's where all the fun happens, when we step into that role for ourselves and like feel legitimate in our businesses. That's my bread and butter for sure. I think also my favorite way to use ChatGPT is I have my action button on my phone set to start a voice conversation with it. And so I will do that probably 20 times a day, just asking it little random questions like, how long do I put this random chicken in the air fryer? What does this light in my car mean? Where can I find gas? Like all these little things, start playing around with it and figuring out what it can do, because it probably can do more than you think. And that's where the fun comes.
Oh, okay. So many things.
So many
Thank you so
things.
much for sharing that. I know, always. I'm just like, all the questions, all
Yeah.
the questions. Definitely want to come back to the voice button because I think that's such a great way to do it. And that's how I always tell people, I'm like, put a sticky note next to your computer being like, can ChatGPT help me with this? Like
That's
open
so
yourself
smart.
up to the possibility that this could happen. But anyway, okay, we'll come back to that because I definitely want to dive a little deeper into custom GPTs with you. I think it's so fun to create all these different custom GPTs for your business. And I think it's way easier than a lot of people think it is. I've played around with the custom GPTs like quite a bit, and I'm always just so curious to see how other people are using them. So, when it comes to the custom GPTs, you are mostly creating them within ChatGPT, right? Do you have any specific tips or insights when it comes to creating these to make sure they're nailing what you're trying to get them to nail?
Custom GPTs is you can put in your own files into it as its like knowledge
Mhm.
database. And so recently I actually redid my branding chatbot for my course, and I put in like a 30-page document of like me and this chatbot like talking about my entire brand. It's 30 pages. I just uploaded in there. I'm like, you need to reference this at every single point in our conversations. Make sure that we are fully focused on this document. And it just makes things so much smoother. And again, I feel like it puts me back in that mode of like training an assistant where I'm just like, here's your operations manual. Take this, run with it. You're good now. I think that's the easiest way to train them. I do always tell people to get started with, you have two ways you can do a custom GPT. You can use the create page or the configure page. The create page is like basically just chatting with the chatbot and telling it what you're looking for, and it'll create that chatbot for you. That's the fun way to do it and get used to figuring out what you're wanting, testing it a little bit, seeing what happens. And then when you want to like upgrade it, you can go to that configure page and put in a ton of instructions of what you're wanting to do and be super specific. Like my copy chatbot even knows only use these emojis, because ChatGPT loves random emojis. And I'm like, just use these. Don't use the ugly ones. I train people to use it as if you would train an assistant, giving them everything you would want to train an assistant on your brand, your business, their job, their role, and kind of just go from there.
Yeah, and I've heard that the configure is better because the create one, it's cool, yeah, ChatGPT is helping you create it, but you don't have as much control over how it updates its own instructions or whatever, right?
It seems to be you can go for a really long time talking to the create page chatbot. And what it wants to do is be as concise as possible. So you could tell
Mhm.
it 30 things in there, and it's going to take all that and be like, here's 3 sentences about what you want. It's like, wait a second. You just took out so many details. And so
Mhm.
it'll give you a great starter chatbot, but you're probably eventually want to upgrade to start really getting into it and figuring out what details you want in there as well.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I've felt as well. Whenever I'm working back and forth with ChatGPT, like I would rather actually have what I call a brand blueprint
Mhm.
that's like literally it's like 80 pages,
Yeah.
girl, I swear. And has all the things about my brand, strategy, messaging, ideal customers, offer suite, all of this stuff. I just have this Google Doc. You can upload straight from Google Drive into your chat GPT now, which is awesome. I absolutely love having this one Google Doc. I can be as long freaking winded as
Mhm.
I want and tell it everything it needs to know about my brand. It is so helpful. And exactly, it doesn't cut out any of the details,
The
which is so nice. I have created a chat bot for my brand, but tell us a little bit about how you decide to create different GPTs, right? Instead of just having one GPT for your entire brand,
Yeah.
or why do you have the one for email versus brand strategy and all that different stuff? Tell us all the things,
Yeah.
lady.
It's definitely a whole lot of trial and error and a lot of
Okay.
time if I were to add it all up. When I first started teaching ChatGPT, before custom chatbots were even a thing, like you just had to go in ChatGPT and do your thing. And one of my first newsletters was about how I created my own team of people. I went back to my roots and
Hmm.
had them labeled like this is the copywriter, this is for content. That was just for my own brain to know how to find what I'd already worked on. I had put it in an email like I did this thing, and everyone's like, how'd you do that? What do you mean you did this? Like, that makes so much sense. All my stuff's in one chat and I keep losing everything. And I'm like, that's why I did it. It had to be labeled in some way. I realized having my team of different people having their own specific things they're really good at, and
Hmm.
so I've built, I believe at this point, 20 chatbots for different businesses. And of course, everyone wants the chatbot that's perfect. You can do every little thing in the world. What I find with them is that if you give it two different jobs, let's say you want it to create blog posts and YouTube scripts, it wants to do both every time and it trips itself up because it wants to
Hmm.
be so helpful that it's not being
Hmm.
100% helpful in that one thing. So I always try to make
Yeah.
chatbots be really good at their own specialty so that it knows what it needs to do. It's not worrying about, oh, we actually need to like make this content into a YouTube video or we need to make it into a newsletter. Because then it's okay, what do I give her? Do I go with the newsletter? Do I go with this? And it's okay, let's just take that questions out. You have this one job and this is what I want you to do, and you're really good at it. That's why I
Hmm.
had them all separate because it's clear for me where to go when I need something. It's like going into an office. I want my marketing person. I want my copywriting person. Where do I go? I think it helps the chatbot think clearer. That's where I trial and error a lot to have them all separate. I'm a little bit like weird. I like having my team of like so many little people working for me. It's fun for me to have all in my sidebar. And I'm like, ooh, I want to talk to this person today. It's just really fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm imagining you giving them all different personalities, a different name. Do you name them differently
Oh, I
too?
give
I'm
them
sure.
names.
Of
I give them little
course.
fun little logos. They're having time in my little sidebar.
That's actually most enticing to me now to go create my whole team of custom GPTs. I'm like, each one gets their own little avatar. I'm gonna make one snarky. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. But anyway, oh my gosh, I love that so much. That makes so much sense. Just like you can get overloaded with different tasks, ChatGPT can get overloaded. And I have found that same thing that you just said is if you try to give it too many things to do all at the same time, then that's when the quality that it's
Yeah.
spitting out at you gets worse. And so, yeah, if you find that it's bad or worse quality, then maybe try breaking down the steps of whatever you're trying to do. With my whole big brand blueprint thing that I created, I made sure that I separated all of the different sections with different headings so that ChatGPT can find things easily in the document. And what I've been doing lately is uploading the doc and then saying, when I go to write copy, saying, please review the brand voice section of my brand blueprint, like giving it those instructions. But if I created these different chat GPTs or custom GPTs, I could instead just tag
Yeah.
my voice one, and that could be the same-ish maybe.
I think that's like why custom GPTs are so helpful because you get what you're prompting it to do every time. If you make a custom GPT that only knew that section, you just
Mhm.
skip that direction part. It's good to go. It helps you get the training part and the direction part. Again, it's just good to go. I think that's for fun where I'm like, okay, I need this. Go in, do the thing you do. We're good to go.
Okay, so I know you mentioned talking to each other, having your different custom GPTs and team members talking to each other. Can you walk us through what it looks like when you're using your different chat GPTs in the chat window and then tagging them and having them talk to each other and that stuff?
Yeah. So I am still someone who will just jump into ChatGPT and start a conversation with the regular chatbot that it's defaulted to. And I find myself being like, wait, this is not my expert in this. You can actually tag, let's say I'm working on something I'm launching something. And I go into ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, I'm launching this. Can you check this copy for me? And I'm like, wait, it's not my copy editor. Let me get her in here. You can just add the copy editor, say, hey, please look at this. She'll look at it and be like, okay, here's what I think about this. Then I'll say, okay, this looks great to me. Let's add the brand director, have them come in here and say, okay, does this copy match our brand vision? And then they'll say yes or no. And then I'm like, okay. If they say no, hey, copy editor, they said no. Can you make it more this now? It's like giving that feedback, having them fix the work is fine. You're directing where the conversation's going and bringing them all into one chat, which is super helpful. Cause I think people think that they make like 10 different chatbots, they have to talk to them separately and copy and paste things all over the place. You can actually put them in the same chat, which is very fun.
Yeah, just by saying the at symbol. And I
Mhm.
also saw recently that if you hit at, it'll prompt you to tag a chatbot
Yeah,
or create one right from there, which is just a fun way to do
isn't
it
that
too.
crazy?
So I love all the little tiny updates. I'm like, oh, this is a fun little thing. So let's talk about the voice memoing and the action button on your phone.
I do think the voice feature is super helpful, especially for creative people who likes that kind of quote unquote face to face time with someone. It does make it feel more natural to talk to the chatbot without having to like, type everything out. I'm excited about where it's going. But in the meantime, I believe I have an iPhone 13 plus, I think. But they have an action on the or an action button on the side. If you hold it, you can have it do all kinds of things. Like, it's really good for accessibility, for opening apps. You have automations in your home. You can have them do like different automations in your house, those kind of things. I made it my ChatGPT app to start voice conversation because Siri and I don't click. And I wanted my ChatGPT to talk to me instead. So I was like, okay, let me skip over Siri and just go into ChatGPT. And so that's been really helpful, especially because I'm still someone who struggles with having ChatGPT do little things for me. I love that you have a Post-it note that reminds you to see if it can do what you need. I'm a lot better at just clicking the button, holding it down, and saying, "Hey, I don't know how to do this thing. Can you tell me how to do it?" And it's just a really helpful feature, especially because like I do it for myself, work alone, and I'm like, "You have a second to talk to me about something?" And it's like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, oh my gosh, I do love that so much. I should use the voice feature a little bit more often, probably. I think I'm just, like, always typing away. Although you can use the voice feature on your computer too, which is awesome. I really don't use it that much, but now that I have my setup, maybe I some
Yeah.
more. I'm really excited too about, like, the live video feed too, because I feel like I'm always screenshotting or just, like, taking a quick photo of something and be like, "ChatGPT, help me with this,"
Yeah.
and I feel like the video part of it's gonna be so easy to show up my computer screen and be like, "What do I do here?" There's something, you know?
What's so fun about it, their presentation for Omni, is that they showcase, like, you can have it translate in real time, which I think would be so
Mhm,
helpful. I'm half
mhm.
Thai. I go to Thailand every year with my mom. I don't
Yeah.
speak Thai. My family
Mhm.
hates about me, and I'm like, "I'm sorry." But I actually went to Korea last year, and my mom, I love her, but she is much more confident than she should be when we travel. Because 'cause we'll walk out of the hotel, and she's like, "I know where to go. I know what to do." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I'll follow her out the hotel, and she's like, "Do you know where the subway station is?" And I'm like, "You said you knew. What are we doing here?" And so, we ended up in a situation where we were lost in the city. I finally walked like 30 minutes to find a taxi, got in a taxi, and I'm like, "Mom, where do we need to go?" And we could not get the man to understand we need to go to the train station. So I pulled out my
Mhm.
phone and said, "Tell him I need to go to this station." Took a picture of her map. She's old. She printed it out on paper. And I showed it to him, translated for him, turned it around. He says, "Okay, cool." I'm like, and of course, I told my mom, we would have been lost for hours if I didn't have technology. I hope you understand that.
Mhm.
He's like, "You did really good." I'm like, "It's for ChatGPT." I'm really excited about. They know the really great real world uses of people that can how they can use it in real world in real time. That's where I get really excited. I always teach people, just get started with it. I know it's a little weird, a little scary sometimes, but if you get started with it, think about how quickly it's developing. And while it's developing, you're learning the skill, growing your own skill in it. So you're ready to take it on when it's really cool. That's exciting.
Oh, man. I wish. I love that you travel with your mom too. That's so fun. I can't believe 30 minutes has gone by already. I could keep talking to you for so long, but that's okay. We'll just have to have more conversations in the future. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Can
Yeah.
you tell everyone how they can connect with you and find all your fun resources?
Absolutely. I do coaching and my course, CEO of Chatbots. You can find me on Instagram at the Creative CoPilot and at thecreativecopilot.com. That is where I will be talking everyone's ears off about how to use AI as a creative.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I've really loved it. It
Thank you for having me.
was so fun.